Hello and welcome to Benz Addiction. If you do this servicing at the dealer, it's going to cost you $800. If you do it as a DIY, $150 including the parts and the tools. This is the 7G-Tronic Mercedes Benz transmission from most of the Mercedes Benz cars from 2005 to 2015. So let's do it together. I'm going to throw all the parts, torque specs and everything required, and it's going to be a detailed video. So stay tuned. Let's start with the ingredients and tools that you would need. First of all, you will need a pump, but any type of pump that you can pump the transmission fluid into your transmission. But for sure, you need a small adapter like this. You can buy these from eBay. It's very cheap, like $5, and you can buy a smaller size pump, but you need to spend more time in that case. You can also buy this tool very cheap, like for $30 if you want to do this maintenance regularly on your Mercedes-Benz, and that saves you a lot of money and time. Second, you will need the correct fluid for your Mercedes-Benz, and that is going to be 236.14. It's going to be the red fluid for any Mercedes-Benz with 7G-Tronic to 2010, and after that it should be the blue transmission fluid. Next, you will need a thermometer if you do not have access to star diagnostic or any good proper diagnostic tools. As I said, you will need an adapter, you will need a torque ratchet, you will need some basic tools and also Allen keys. And last but not least, you will need a transmission filter kit for your 722.9 transmission. You would also need 6 of these aluminium bolts for the transmission pan, also a washer, crush washer for the drain plug. And here are some of the part numbers that you might need to buy. So if you want to completely drain your transmission, and if your transmission is equipped with a small window to access the bolt to the torque converter, you will in that case need about approximately 7 liters of fluid. Otherwise, 5 liters of fluid should be enough to drain from your transmission only. But it's always recommended, if you can, drain the torque converter as well. The other important point is that you need to have your car on a level surface, because at some point when you want to put the fluid back into your transmission, you need to have your car on a level surface, because otherwise you will end up with incorrect level of fluid inside your transmission. So make sure you don't jack up your car at the front or at the back, because it needs to be really level. Also, if you need to drain the fluid from your torque converter, you will need to have a 27 millimeter socket plus a long extension to be able to rotate the crankshaft pulley and find the bolt on the torque converter to drain the fluid from your converter. This service is recommended to be done on any Mercedes Benz transmission at 60,000 kilometers interval. First of all, you need a 6 millimeter Allen with a ratchet to open up this bolt over here, the drain plug for the transmission, and have a bucket ready underneath. Now we need to knock off the level straw in order to remove most of the fluid from the transmission pan. So we just need to insert the screwdriver, and then that will be enough for us to remove most of the fluid out of the transmission. And when the flow is stopped, you can put the plug back. It's actually a good idea to leave it, if you can, to drain as much as possible fluid over the night. When you remove the transmission pan, there will be less mess. It's easy to remove the cap. You just need a small screwdriver behind it, and there we go. Okay, here is the window to find the plug for the torque converter. The bad news is that we need to rotate the crankshaft pulley in 5 centimeter or 2 inches increment slowly and find the plug for the torque converter. And it's even harder with not having the car on the hoist, because this is an awkward position. Okay, this is the 27 millimeter socket. We always need to move the crankshaft pulley clockwise. Okay, the best way is to use your long ratchet from underneath the car while you're lying at the front, and then trying with one hand rotating the pulley and with one hand filming, watching the plug passing, and hopefully you can find it. But unfortunately on mine there is a window but there is no plug, so unfortunately I only have to change the fluid that is available in the oil pan or the transmission pan. The torque converter drain plug is an 8 millimeter and it should look like this. So there can be the window, but there is the possibility that you won't find the drain plug. There is still another liter of fluid inside the oil pan, and the best strategy is to get rid of the brackets around, the cable ties, the wiring. Get them out of the way as much as you can, because otherwise it might get messy. And also when installing back the oil pan with the gasket, it might get even more difficult with all these things around the transmission oil pan. To remove the filter, you need to pull it out, that's all. You just need to wiggle a bit with it and that's all, it's removed. So you can see that there is still a lot of fluid inside the oil pan after all of this time and all of the tipping over. And this is the level straw over here, which is yellow. That means our fluid should be red. So our next job is to clean around the transmission where the gasket is going to sit, to replace the gasket and to clean the oil pan. Now that I have removed the gasket around, now let's go ahead and clean it up. I'm going to use some degreaser as well to thoroughly clean it. So make sure you note how much you remove roughly, because that estimation is initially crucial. Inspect your magnet for metal particles and hopefully you won't have any. While this pan is out, make sure you replace your level straw, or at least if you do not have access to one, make sure it's in a good shape and it's not wobbly and it's not cracked, because it's very important in checking the oil level. This is actually going to be the level of the oil when you put the oil pan back. Also make sure that your fitting is correct and it really fits well with your transmission plug hole. Also, it's a very good idea to touch the surrounding of your transmission oil pan to make sure there is no imperfection. Mine had a little of the old gasket stuck to it, so I cleaned it up thoroughly using solvents, and now as you can see it's very nice and clean on both sides and it's ready to go on the transmission. Okay, so here it's easier for you to see what's going on here. So there are 6 similar bolts here. They're all aluminum and one-time use. So if you even try to use these for the second time, you will end up with a threaded bolt anyway. But the brackets, 5 of them are the same, but one of them has 2 screws on them. This one needs to be taken first when removing the transmission, because this might cause more issue than the other ones. I'm going to clean up the brackets, but replace the bolts. Make sure you buy the bolts in advance. Also, for your plug, make sure you buy one of these copper washers. Before I go ahead and put on the filter, I need to mention that the torque setting on these aluminum screws are only 4 Newton meters at the first stage, and then we go 180 degrees after that. And make sure you put the gasket correctly and it's seated perfectly, because underneath the car you don't have much of lee room over there. The easiest way is to put the middle 2 screws and brackets first, and then we can go around easily and work around the transmission, putting all other 4 bolts and brackets then. The surrounding is clean. Let's put the filter back on. To put the filter on, you need to lubricate the washer and the seal around the filter and then push it in just like that. And this side will be loose and hanging kind of like that. So you don't have to be worried about this side. Move the oil pan when installing back to make sure the gasket is sitting properly. When you put all 6 and 7 bolts back on, make sure you inspect them and make sure that groove matches the oil pan and the brackets are in place before torquing down to 4 Newton meters. Okay, let's start from the middle and torque them down to 4 Newton meters at the first stage. That's 4, that's 4, 4, 4. I'm going to use my regular ratchet for the final 180. Okay, all done. We are good to put the fluid back. So we have torqued the bolts now, but I haven't put everything back, like the brackets and the clamps for the wiring harness, in case I need to tighten a little bit more in case of any leak, like 1% chance. But I have connected my hose to the connector and I'm ready to pump 6 liters of fluid into the transmission. So now I can open up this tap over here so the fluid can travel or transfer to the transmission. And then after 4 or 5 liters, I'll check for any potential leaks. Pouring the very first 4 liters of the transmission fluid inside the pump so I can pump it inside the transmission. So I'll do a 4 liter separately and a 2 liter later on. So this pump is using air pressure to transfer all the fluid inside, and I'm pretty sure it will be quick, but you can use whatever pump you have handy. That doesn't really matter. It's the matter of time and a bit of laziness from my side, but this is a proper tool probably to use. So if as soon as I open up this tap here, you see that you're transferring very rapidly. It's 1.5 so far, 2 liters so far. One more liter left. The first 4 liter is done and I'm ready to put another 2 liters inside. Okay, so here is another 2.2 liters. I just want to overfill a bit to the transmission. So when I open up that tap to remove the excess, when the temperature is 45 degrees, I will have some to come outside to make sure the level is correct. So you want to some extent to overfill the transmission to some extent, like 200 cc, to make sure that you get to the correct level when the operating temperature reaches 45 degrees. So let's push this into. One more liter. And as soon as I see bubble, I empty the pressure, stop the I think we are initially good now to start the engine and to warm up the transmission to 45 degrees now. And close this tap over here to make sure nothing is going back to the pump itself. So depending on the tool you have over here, you might want to use star diagnostic, you might want to use some proper OBD2 scanner, or you might want to use one of these thermometers. Okay, the engine is started and it might take around 20 minutes to get into 45 degrees, but there is one more thing to be done, and use brake, put the car into gears, rear drive for a few times and keep it in drive for a few seconds, making sure the torque converter and everything is getting lubricated and the transmission fluid is traveling everywhere. D, R, it seems that it's engaging, so it's working properly, and then D, and then N, D again, R, and then we put it in P. So here we go to the transmission module, and you can use your star diagnostic as well, and then live data. As you can see over here, if you go to torque converter lockup, for example, I have 24 degrees at the moment transmission oil temperature, so I can put in drive or reverse few times in between. I will wait until we get to 45 degrees, and then quickly we need to jump out and drain the excess of the transmission fluid, and when it almost stopped, we need to put the plug for the transmission back. So at that point in time, the transmission will have enough fluid inside, and that's how we check the transmission fluid level. 15 degrees already was here at winter time, and 80 degree the water temperature, the coolant temperature. Okay, before reaching the temperature, the required temperature of 45, we go through the gears again, making sure transmission has fluid everywhere and it's circulating. It's now 44. Let's jump out and use our infrared thermometers as well to confirm. Okay. The level for the transmission fluid is now correct. All we need to do is torque the drain plug of the transmission to 22 Newton meters and put back all of the clamps for the harnesses and brackets and make sure everything is back in the place like it was before. So now we clean up the excess oil from the transmission pan. We torque it down to 22 Newton meter using a torque meter. We put back all the harnesses and make sure all the brackets and the shields are in place. And now we're ready for a test drive. And enjoy the smooth gear change of 7229. Okay guys, 722.9 transmission servicing is done, and it might probably take around 3 hours. A very productive and great DIY that's worth every minute of working. Enjoy your Mercedes Benz. Have a great day. Bye.
Let's go.